The dark original story of Sleeping Beauty. You probably know the story. A beautiful princess falls into an enchanted sleep. 100 years pass. Then, a prince arrives. He kisses her. And she wakes up. It sounds like one of the most romantic fairy tales ever told. But here is the strange part. That isn't how the oldest famous version of the story actually goes. And the original tale is far darker than the version most of us grew up with. Before Disney, before castles filled with talking animals, and before the famous magical kiss, there were much older stories about a sleeping princess. One of the most disturbing versions appeared in Italy in the 17th century, written by the Italian storyteller Giambattista Basile. The story was called Sun, Moon, and Talia. And it was very different from the fairy tale we know today. The story begins with a girl named Talia. Her father, a powerful lord, is told by wise men that his daughter will one day face a terrible fate involving a piece of flax. Because of this prophecy, he tries to protect her. But eventually, Talia encounters a piece of flax. She pricks herself and falls into a deep, enchanted sleep. Her family believes there is nothing they can do. So they leave her in a magnificent country estate. And there she remains, sleeping. Not for a few hours. Not for one night. But for a very long time. Then, one day, a king discovers the sleeping Talia. And this is where the story takes a very dark turn. Instead of simply waking her with a magical kiss, the king takes advantage of her while she is unconscious. Talia later gives birth to twins while still under the spell. The children are named Sun and Moon. Eventually, one of the babies accidentally removes the piece of flax that caused Talia's enchanted sleep. And suddenly, she wakes up. She discovers that she has children. And she learns what happened while she was unconscious. But the story doesn't end there. The king already has a wife. When the queen discovers that her husband has been secretly involved with another woman, and that children have been born from it, she becomes furious. She orders the children to be killed. But the plan fails. The children are secretly protected. Eventually, the queen's actions are discovered, and the story ends with the king and Talia together. Now compare that story with the Sleeping Beauty you probably know. Disney gave us a beautiful princess, a magical curse, a sleeping castle, a brave prince, and a magical kiss. The older story gave audiences something much darker. Prophecy, fear, power, betrayal, and consequences. So why did the story change? Because fairy tales were not always created for children. For centuries, stories were told to adults as entertainment, warnings, folklore, and moral tales. Over time, storytellers changed them. Writers removed disturbing elements. Characters became more heroic. Villains became easier to understand. And eventually, the fairy tale became something children could watch. That transformation happened again and again. The stories we know today are often the polished versions of much older tales. And that's why Sleeping Beauty is so fascinating. The princess didn't begin as a simple Disney character. Her story evolved across centuries. From old European folklore, to printed fairy tales, to modern children's entertainment. And with every generation, the story became a little different. So the next time you hear, "Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess who fell asleep," remember, the version you know today is only one chapter in a much older story. And sometimes, the original fairy tale is the one that reveals the darkest secrets. Because fairy tales weren't always as innocent as we remember them.